Welcome in to the Common Dad Podcast, Season 5. Thank you so much for joining. I am your host yet again, Justin, and I'm, of course, joined by Andrew. How are you doing, good sir?
That's me.
That is you.
I'm good. Work is busy. Life is busy. You know. Life is busy, but you keep going. You just keep trucking along. You can't let things bother you, pull you down. You just got to keep moving forward.
Something's bothering me, and I feel like it's a legit bother, and it is weighing on me heavily, and it's a rather legal question. As you know, we've just moved in to our new house-ish. It's been a couple months. Our neighbor behind us is not the best, but keeps to himself relatively. He was just naked in his backyard 2 days ago in the morning at about 9 a.m. Just,
you know,
and
freedom.
We don't live. This
You
person
got like
is
wooden fences or like what? Like
so. Yes, everybody around. This is like a suburb, so you know, neighbors are backing into other neighbors' houses, pretty much. There's privacy fences all around. However, the
two-story house
that we are, yeah. First of all, 2-story house. So you know, if you're up and you can just see this man and all of his glory. But we're kind of on a plateau a little bit. So I can stand in my backyard, see clean over his fence, and at 9 a.m. while I'm drinking my coffee, I'm looking at Snake dead in the eye, and it just,
I mean, it sounds like he's challenging you.
I don't know. He was just kind of like, just kind of stretching like, oh, what a good morning. And
don't your in-laws live with you? You should just tell your father-in-law that it's a challenge and that he needs to one-up him.
So that's actually who I was alerted by, was my mother-in-law. And she doesn't speak great English, broken English. She alerted me by saying, noodle. I'm not going to do the accent, but that was the red alert. And I noticed she wasn't cooking pasta. And yeah, and then there's...
And then you notice
there
him.
He is. Yeah. Oh, that noodle. Okay. So question, is that illegal?
So,
I mean, he was on his property.
I believe there may be, so he's on his property. So the gut reaction is it's legal, but I think that there is still some laws around like expose it, because there are minors around. And so it doesn't, as much as you're on your own property, you have to take reasonable means to be private. And if your yard is not reasonably covered or shrouded, I would imagine you should have a lawyer look into that. Certainly.
Yeah. We have many lawyers listen to this show. If somebody could please,
you could also get like, what are those little like water BBs or like a little BB gun or something?
Yeah. Just get a pellet gun.
Like a little, like, not trying to kill him or hurt him, like maim him or anything. Just enough to be like, oh yeah, he's not going to do that again.
One of those water guns.
Get one of those ones that's like a sniper rifle too.
Yeah.
It's like you see them in like the airsoft videos where like they're shooting people at like 100+ feet away. You could just open up like the bedroom window on the second floor and he won't even know, and just in the sack.
Nice pop to the boys. Yeah, that would definitely.
He won't do that again. Right, wrong, or indifferent, and there's not going to be much he can do to prove anything.
Yeah, it's water. It's immediately gone. That's a good point. That's a really good point. Maybe that's what I'll do.
Well, if you use a pellet gun, it's not water.
No. I think the water gun idea.
That might leave a mark too.
Yeah, the
water gun idea. Yeah,
pellet gun would be frowned upon by the law, I think. But I think the water gun. I think that's a good. Yeah. But don't do that. Don't be naked in front of other people's kids. I feel like that's just a good.
Or just every time he goes out there, just take a bunch of bird seed and throw it in his yard and watch all the birds flock into his yard.
Yeah, that would work too. So yeah, that's how I started.
That's a shame, you know.
And he has kids too.
Be conscious of your neighbors. Be conscious of the people around you. Don't be that guy.
Yeah, definitely don't be that. definitely don't be that guy. We talked about don't put your shopping cart back guy. Don't be naked in the neighborhood guy for sure. That's a different.
Right.
It's a different guy altogether. Here we go. In Ohio, indecent exposure is also known as public indecency. Conviction for indecent exposure will result in criminal record and possibly registered as a sex offender. I can register him as a sex offender. That would be fun. You know what?
But it does it matter
Can't
about personal
paint-
property? And is it indecent exposure if he's on his own property?
Oh yeah. I don't know. You know,
We'll get the lawyer involved.
Here we go.
And we'll
in order to be
maybe-
guilty
okay.
of indecent exposure, Ohio law requires a person to be doing these acts recklessly under circumstances
Recklessly.
in which the person's conduct is likely to be viewed by and affront others who are in the person's physical proximity and who are not members of the person's household. Doesn't say anything about
You're
it.
not
Doesn't
members
say-
of the household, and yeah, it doesn't say anything about property. It says vicinity,
Yep. We were definitely in the
and
vicinity.
you're not members of the household.
No.
So
Yeah, and this was reckless. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to register my neighbor. That's exciting.
hey,
Awesome.
learn something
There we
new
go.
every day, right?
There we go. Look at
Come
that.
here every
Hey, if
week
your
for your
neighbor-
updated news on sex offenders.
Yeah, if you were wondering how to convict somebody of being a sex offender, that'll be on the next episode. I'll walk you through it step by step. Anyway, let's get to what we
On the
actually came
topic.
here for. On the topic. I need a cough drop, but it's okay. We'll push through. On the topic, we are in our before and after series, mini series.
Mini.
So tonight we're talking about before and after COVID.
Is it
Certainly,
indecent exposure if he's wearing a mask?
where's the mask? It's all in the details. All in the details. I'm gonna need more than
COVID
6
before
yeah.
and after.
Okay. Anyway, yeah. Certainly a lot of changes. A lot of them didn't stick. Obviously, like full lockdown didn't lasted longer than it should have lasted. But it's not continuing through today. I don't know. When I think about this, and again, this goes back to my personality of I don't really like people that much. I definitely notice there is more space given in like grocery stores and banks and like do you see that at all? Do you notice that at all? Like it's still just kind of like a thing that it's not everywhere, but
Maybe
it
that's
seems,
where you are. I don't know. South
Yeah.
Florida, there's so many people stacked on top of each other in South Florida. Like
kinda
if you're
can't.
out and about, there's nobody's paying attention to that. You do see quite often actually down here. I would say probably 3 to 5 times a week I still run into people who are still wearing the mask.
Yeah, I see them. I
3 to
see
5
people
times a
masking
week.
up here as well.
I do think you're going to run into those people that are still doing that. I hope that everybody has learned a little bit of what's the word? Like sanitization. Like
Yes,
I've noticed a lot more people paying
Yes.
attention to washing your hands.
Yeah,
As gross as that may sound, you go into public bathrooms, you go into bathrooms at work, at public restrooms on the road tripping, rest stops, etc. And I mean, you can sit there and watch the people, or previously you could sit there and watch the people who were walking in and out and clearly not washing their hands at all.
not washing.
And
their
at
hands,
least now
yeah.
I feel like there is a much higher percentage of people who are washing their hands after going to the bathroom.
fully agree.
Seems fully stupid that COVID changed that.
Right.
But
It's
for
like
better
when
or
it
for worse,
happened-
people are washing their hands a little bit more. They're covering their mouths.
Yeah.
And yes, there are some of those people out there that still feel more comfortable wearing a mask. I hope that
Which-
they're following decent mask, protocol and washing that thing regularly and
Oh,
not
gosh.
wearing a dirty mask.
Yeah. That's true. I remember when all the
Yeah.
signs went up and I was just kind of like, are we not doing this, America? Was this the problem? Because
Yeah.
we're all very disgusting.
The-
if
The
if
good
this
news is
it.
that the
Like,
temperature checks and the spacing, the forced spacing, and
Right.
the shaking hands, and for your friends and family giving hugs
Yep.
and things like that. All of the worry around those types of things have gone away. So
those dissipated, thank goodness. Those were the ones that felt like really like, oh, this is affecting my life, like this is making it weird and not
you can't go to your friend's house, you can't go to your parents' house, you can't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, no, I'm going anyways, thanks.
Yep. And all the grocery stores, I feel like for the most part, have taken down that big piece of plastic that does absolutely nothing because you're touching all my things anyway and you're going to hand them to me. Those are gone.
Well, the clerk like leans around the glass and you know talks to you because you can't hear them through the glass, so they lean around the glass and talk to you, completely negating the glass in the first
and they
place.
hand you the filthy money. Here you go, take this cash that's
covered in glitter.
Yeah, it's
like, gee, I wonder where that came from.
Yeah,
all these singles with glitter on them.
Yeah. Gosh. So yeah, there's that. That's a big notice. Well, I think I've said this before in this podcast. As I attend church, I really enjoyed not having to look at my neighbor and shake hands. Now that's back. I really wish that would have stuck. Can we
find a church that doesn't do the greet your neighbor thing. Our church doesn't do that.
Oh man, that's good. I do. Yeah, it's hard to find.
We had some meetings about all of that. I'm kind of involved in some of the different leadership groups and whatnot, and it was kind of like one of those where it was like, it's kind of an awkward thing. Everybody agrees it's an awkward thing, and churches do it to be nice and friendly and to like force friendliness between everybody. But ultimately, everybody thinks it's weird, so maybe we just don't do it. And everybody's like, "Yeah, that'd be a great idea." So we don't do it.
If somebody's out there and they're like, where did you meet your best friend or your wife? And they're like, well, I was sitting in church service and pastor told us to shake somebody's hand. And there they like, that never happens. You shake that person's hand and then you never see them again in your entire life, especially if they're weird, because then you sit somewhere else next week. So it's just, I'm glad that makes sense. Now, one thing that does seem to have stuck is and you could apply this to church life, is not everything. A lot of things are a lot more virtual.
Yes.
How do you feel about that? I don't know if I love it or not.
I'm a relatively big fan of it. Now I work in a live events industry, so we do a lot of concerts, tours, conventions, conferences, corporate type events, as well as parties and festivals and whatnot. We do all kinds of different things. So the live event industry completely shutting down, because no crowds, no touching,
right?
That kind of killed our industry for an entire year and a half, which was rough. So I'm happy that we're back to that.
Right.
But like you said, I think it kind of taught people that virtual is an option. Yeah. And it's an option that was underutilized previously. If you're sick and you want to go to a conference and they weren't televising it, you would just go anyways, and maybe you'd get people sick. But if you had a virtual option and you're sick, you're like, well, shoot, I don't want to get people sick. I'm just going to stay home and I'll watch the conference from home.
Yes.
Like, there's a virtual option. Same thing could be said with church. If you didn't have an online service previously and now you have online services or something to that effect, there's more options for virtual now. And so as a result, you are able to assess your own position. If you're sick, if you're maybe, I mean, how many times previously did you go to work knowing you were sick because you didn't want to take sick time off, or maybe you didn't have sick time, or maybe you were hourly and you needed the paycheck because you were living paycheck to paycheck. So you would go to work sick.
Yeah. And get everybody else
on
sick.
Purpose.
Yep.
Because that was your choice. And I think the virtual thing, both in life and in work, has kind of opened the eyes of people. And I think there's a second side of that too, obviously, from the business owner's perspective. Now you can kind of encourage your people like, hey, if you're sick and you want to work from home, if your job allows it, obviously,
right? Yeah.
Then do that. And don't come in, just do what you can from home, and don't get everybody in the office sick. I think there's another part too, where 98.9% of my job is phone calls and email.
Right.
Why is my business paying for an office building with cubicles and desks and phones and internet and air conditioning and a kitchen and all these different things when they could just say, hey, work from home. Here's the expectations. We're going to call you if we think that, there's an issue. And lo and behold, actually, your performance ends up going up because
What do you know?
you're
Yeah.
more comfortable. You're able to work better hours. You're not commuting back and forth. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's opened up a whole new world for business in that, hey, maybe we don't need as much brick and mortar as we had previously. Let's just have some people work from their house and use their own internet.
Yep.
Some companies will pay for it, some won't. I think the company should give you a little bit of something because you have to pay for your internet. So if you're
Right.
using your internet for the company, they should probably chip in a little bit for that. But ultimately, it's a negligible amount in
They
the end
don't.
anyways.
Yeah, because we're all gonna have it anyway. It doesn't matter, right?
Because you're going to have, exactly.
You're gonna have it anyway. Yeah, that's something.
Virtual was way underutilized, and
Yeah.
it's becoming far more relevant that, hey, you don't have to be in person. I understand what you're saying. In person, there's a camaraderie aspect and a physical aspect, and it
It's nice from time
there's
to time.
there's
It's
value
not
to
necessary.
it,
Yeah.
but it's not 100% necessary at all.
No. And I think a lot of businesses, even the bigger businesses, are more aware of that, which is good. Now, some are going back to the office, quite frankly, because they own these buildings and they're paying on them and they don't want them to sit empty. There's no other logical reason, but it is what it is. If they're asking you to go back, you should probably just go back so you don't lose your job. But that's the reason they're doing it. Now, one thing about the virtual side that I love and don't love. So there's two parts about this, and this is going to sound like I'm discriminating against old people. And I might be. I don't know. You tell me. It jolted an older generation into forcing them to learn technology. Like when everything went into lockdown, especially, to a degree. They're not, riding around on hoverboards and stuff, but to a degree, especially if you were a grandparent and you wanted to see your grandkids, like, all right, we're going to have to figure out FaceTime. We're going to have to figure out Zoom. Like, and what do you know? They all figured it out. It's fine. It's easy. And it's like, after COVID now, like I'm doing all these virtual meetings and I work for a really big company and there's a whole lot of people, young, old, it's everywhere. It's every literally all across the world. And it's like everybody knows how to just jump on a Zoom call now. And there's every now and then you get the person, how do I present? Can you see my screen? And it's like, okay. But for the most part, everybody just seems to be a little bit more on the same page as far as technology, at least closer, which is good, I think, which it's made those things a little bit easier. Now, I am tired of Zoom calls. I won't lie. But it beats an in-person meeting. Now,
Any meeting is a waste of time, but
they should all be emails. There's not one meeting I've ever sat in.
2-sentence emails.
Literally, if you're gonna fire me, email me. I don't need an email. I don't need a meeting. Just fire me via email. That's fine. Now, what about the kids' side of this? Because for me, I can't figure out if this happened because of COVID or this was just the time it happened. But when everything went into lockdown and it was like, I know you got furloughed. I didn't get fired. I just quit my job right at the start of the pandemic and then couldn't find another one. So I really timed that up well. So I did go unemployed for a little bit and then picked up some stuff with a big box store owned by some guy named Jeff, and worked there for a while. But I spent a lot of time at home, as I think a lot of parents did. And it was kind of like, oh, this is probably what parenting is supposed to feel more like, right? Like I went from seeing my kids in a half hour in the morning to making it home just before bedtime.
Right.
And before COVID, it was kind of like that was that's what you do. You work your butt off, you make a living for your family and you provide, and all that's great and all that's well, but it's like, I'm missing everything. And then COVID happened and it was like, oh, now I see all the stuff I'm missing. What the hell am I doing? I don't need to work 12 hours a day. Did you notice a shift like that?
There's certainly a shift. So I think what ultimately what you're referring to is work-life balance. And yes, my company had a massive shift in work-life balance. Pre-COVID to post-COVID. Pre-COVID, I was easily working 10 to 11 hour days and then commuting back and forth on top of that 11 hours. And many times,
real quick,
in busy seasons.
Were you convinced that that was like normal and that's what it was supposed to be?
I knew there were other jobs out there that didn't require that, but they weren't really in my industry. And I figured for my industry, this is just what I had to do.
Okay. Gotcha. That's how I felt too.
One of the things that has shifted obviously since then is everybody cares more about it. Everybody and working from home gives you some of those luxuries. But it's been a big shift in we're here to run a business and there's life outside of business. Your life is not the business. And so it's okay to put the phone down and like the work will still be there tomorrow and that's okay. And previously there was more of a push that we need to attend this. We need to be the first one to respond to clients. We need to be talking to them and accessible to them at all times and around the clock and on-call systems where they could literally reach you 24 hours a day. And all of that has kind of gone away into much more of a let's do smart business. We don't need to do all the business. So work-life balance has shifted a lot. I wanted to say, so you mentioned like the perspective of the kids and you were transitioning into the work-life balance, but where my mind first went is our son was in first grade, I think, kindergarten in the first year of COVID. So his first year of COVID was virtual school, sitting on a laptop.
That's crazy.
And it was like, hey kid, you've never gone to school before, but now you have to sit in front of a laptop.
Right.
You know how to write your name, but now you need to learn how to type in a password so you can log into your account, open Safari, go to a browser, type in this URL, then open up a second tab, open that URL. You need to open Teams, and then you need to read a book on here, then log into this team call. And then at this time, you have to log out of that team call and go into a different team call. Yeah. Typing your name, your email, talking to the teacher, raising your hand on the Microsoft Teams thing, doing all these different things. And you have to sit in a chair for like 5 or 6 hours without getting up as a kindergartner.
That's impossible.
You're not allowed to talk to friends. You're not allowed to there's no interaction with your friends. There's it's just you sit in front of a computer screen for hours on end and watch stuff that you don't want to watch because you're used to watching TV or an iPad or playing with your friends. Now you get to sit in a chair and watch somebody on a screen talk about stuff for hours at a day. So that was miserable. Coming out of that, way, 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 way better. So from the kids' perspective, it was sheer torture. Social distancing, nightmare. Not seeing people, staying in a house, locked up, versus going out, going to the park, having fun. Playgrounds were closed during COVID.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of days that we spent outside with Hot Wheel cars and about 100 foot of track on the driveway, and that's what we did pretty much every day. And I don't know. Well, you said kindergarten. I mean, it was because you couldn't really explain to them what was going on without scaring them. You know what I mean?
Nope.
So it was like you just kind of had to. And now the good part about that age is you could just kind of tell them that's what it is, and they're just like, okay, and they tend not to think twice about it.
Yeah, but there was no getting them to sit in front of a computer screen.
No, definitely not. You could
trying to work your job.
Oh my gosh!
While they're sitting in school, typically you drop them off in school and then you go to work. And school may not be 8 or 9 hours, and you may have to manage schedules, and it may be tough for you to manage your own work around dropping off and picking up. But at least it was like you drop them off and you could go to work. Now it was like they're sitting next to you on a computer, and every 4 seconds they need your help to switch applications, type something in, search for something, answer a question. Every 4 seconds, but you also have to do your job.
And now you're trying. Yeah, it was that was part that I think I almost just blocked out because it was so impossible, and there was never a time where you felt like, oh, okay, we got it down now. Like, no, my kid's not going to sit for 5 hours. Like, it never felt like, oh, now we're into a pattern here. Now we got a nice rhythm. It was just always like, well, today's going to be another hell day. And it was every time. And I felt bad for the teachers too, because some teachers mailed it in. Our boy's teacher did not. She tried everything she could possibly do to keep their attention, and it just would fail miserably every single day. And I felt so bad for her. It's just literally, she's doing she's dressing up in like costumes, like Mickey Mouse ears, like everything she can do. And it's like, no, man, there's kindergartners. They're gonna wander when they're in the classroom. Definitely not when they're sitting at the kitchen table. So yeah, that was part that really, really sucked. But I do think, kind of looking at it from a 3,000 foot view, like the before and after, obviously we're not getting into the whole medical side of this. It's just regular life before and after. But after thinking about it and talking about it, I kind of feel like overall, I think more good than bad. Would you agree?
What do you mean by that?
Like from like before and after COVID.
Good
like I kind of like
afterwards.
Good results. Yes.
Not during, but
not
after.
The pandemic itself. I did not enjoy the pandemic itself. I'm just saying the
obviously not. I'm not suggesting you would say the pandemic itself, but like the during the pandemic resulting things. Yes, after, yes, better work-life balance, correct, better family, better time management, better moral basis of you and your family versus work and things like that, better hand washing capabilities, all of it.
Now, question. Do you think, and we'll finish with this, I just want to know your thoughts, do a little conspiracy theories here. Do you think slowly we'll slip back out down into that where there's just no work-life balance again? Or do you think it'll kind of stay this way?
Being in a capitalist country, yes, we're 100% money rules. And I think everybody kind of feels current economy and whatnot. It's tight. It's tough. Mortgage rates are through the roof right now. You got to pay your bills. You know, you got to do what it takes to make ends meet for you, for your family, for the things you want and what matters. And employers are going to take advantage of that until they can't. And so they are going to push for more and more and more for every dollar that they're spending on you. And I don't know what the answer to that is. I do think if you're not happy in your job, go get a new job. There's plenty of other things out there you can do. Make less money and be happy than make more money and be unhappy, if that makes any sense. But
exactly.
And I think there's some power in that. I think if everybody in your job is unhappy with the way the employer management is treating everybody and they all choose to leave, that's going to be a pretty clear message to management that they're mismanaging everybody in the company, and they will start to shift how they manage things into a better, methodology. But ultimately, money rules all. And if if a competitor comes out and says, yeah, well, I'm willing to pay you hourly and you can do 12 hours a day and I'll pay you overtime and all of this, somebody's going to go, well, I'm struggling to make ends meet. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to make overtime and get paid extra and make double time and work 12 hours a day. And yeah, it's going to suck to work 12 hours a day, but I'm going to make more money doing it. And that means that I'm going to be able to provide for my family. Like it's ultimately, we're going to slip back into that. I don't know that there's a way around that. I mean,
I think you're right.
Even as much as things have changed, speaking from my own childhood, I grew up in a small town, not tiny, but a small town in Ohio. And my wife and I were just talking about this the other day. It's like on a Sunday afternoon, there were maybe 3 places in town that were open. Everybody was closed. And I'm talking, I'm 33 years old. So we're talking, I don't know, 27 years ago.
Yeah.
Everything was closed on a Saturday. Now, it wasn't a giant massive, it wasn't a Super Bowl city. It wasn't a San Fran, LA, Miami, Dallas, Chicago, New York. It wasn't one of these major cities. But on a Sunday, everything was closed. on a Saturday night at 7:00, everything was closed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the number of places now that are 24/7, 7 days a week, or are like 6 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week. Why? Well, money rules all. It's not about work-life balance. And as much as things shifted during COVID back to work-life balance, it didn't move that far. Like things are still open on Sunday, so
yeah,
it didn't move that far.
Yeah.
In 27 years, things have progressed more towards, working for money.
Yeah.
COVID didn't change much, ultimately.
I do have one last point that you kind of alluded to there, and I think this is the most important thing we could take out of this. Walmart is no longer a 24/7 store, and thank the good Lord, because that place should close at 11, because there's a saying in sports, and especially like college football, college basketball, nothing good happens after 12 a.m. Nothing good at Walmart happens after 11 p.m.
I thought it was like 2 a.m. or something.
And it used to be 24/7. At least that's what I remember.
No. I mean, nothing good happens after 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I thought it was 2 a.m. for sports.
Pick your time. It depends on.
That's what
I
your
think
coach
in
always
Florida,
said. I thought it was 2.
In Florida, it's 12 a.m. Yeah, it depends. But yeah, Walmart just never needed to be open 24/7. That place
Conspiracy
is terrifying.
theory, I still think all Walmarts are one store, and the entrance
they
and
are.
exit is just a portal that transports you instantaneously to the one Walmart that exists.
That's all it is.
There is one Walmart, and all of the it's just you can park at your local parking lot and walk through a teleportation device to the Walmart.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is. All right, this has been another very educational, the Common Dad
Informative.
podcast. Very informative. Next episode we will teach you how to spearhead a coup at your current employer and make everybody quit, and then you become the owner, CEO. That's on the next episode. So before we leave, do not forget to go to the socials, wherever you're listening. If you're on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, if you can, leave a little 5-star review. Go to Instagram, leave a follow, go to Facebook, leave a like, and go to our YouTube channel and leave a subscription. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next time.